It was a crisp Monday morning when Mr. Daniel Carter, the CEO of a rapidly growing retail chain called Haven Mart, walked into one of his stores dressed like any other customer. Wearing an old jacket, a baseball cap pulled low, and a pair of worn sneakers, he looked nothing like the sharp suit-wearing leader featured in business magazines. Daniel had built Haven Mart from the ground up, priding himself on creating a company where customers and employees felt valued. But lately, he had been receiving unsettling reports, anonymous complaints about poor treatment of customers, especially those with disabilities. He couldn't ignore it. This wasn't the company he had dreamed of. So, he decided to go undercover. He wanted to see for himself how things were really running in his stores. No managers, no assistants. Just him, a shopping basket, and a notebook tucked into his pocket. As he stepped into the store, the buzz of activity surrounded him. Customers browsed the shelves, carts squeaked down the aisles, and faint pop music played over the speakers. Daniel took a deep breath, feeling a mix of nerves and determination. This wasn't just a business decision, it was personal. He noticed a young man in a wheelchair near the entrance. The man struggled to pull a basket from the stack, his hands trembling slightly. Before Daniel could step forward to help, two employees standing nearby burst into quiet laughter. Daniel froze, his heart sinking. "That guy comes in all the time," one of the employees whispered, loud enough for Daniel to hear. "Always acting like he needs help. Bet he just wants attention." The other one smirked. "Probably. Watch, he's gonna make a scene in a minute." Daniel's stomach churned. He clenched his fists, anger bubbling inside him. He couldn't believe what he was hearing. These were his employees, the people he trusted to represent his values. And they were mocking a customer, a disabled customer at that. But Daniel didn't intervene just yet. He needed to understand the full picture. So, he watched, listened, took notes, and what he saw would stay with him forever. Daniel trailed behind the young man in the wheelchair as he navigated the store. The man was clearly trying to be independent, grabbing items off shelves with some difficulty. Every now and then, he would drop something or pause to adjust his grip, but he didn't complain. The employees who had laughed earlier were now stalking him from a distance, whispering and pointing. One of them, a tall man with a name tag that read Greg, walked up to the man and spoke in a tone dripping with fake cheerfulness. "Need help, buddy?" Greg asked, his voice loud and exaggerated. The man looked up, hesitant. No, I'm okay, thanks." Greg shrugged, turning to his coworker. "Told you, always acting like he's got it under control." They both snickered, loud enough for the man to hear. His face flushed red, and he quickly turned his wheelchair around to leave the aisle. Daniel's chest ached as he watched. This wasn't just unprofessional, it was downright cruel. The man had done nothing to deserve such treatment. As the man wheeled himself toward the checkout counter, another incident unfolded. He accidentally knocked over a small display of candy bars. Before he could pick them up, the cashier rolled her eyes and muttered, "Great, just what I needed today." Daniel couldn't stay silent anymore. Daniel walked over to the man, crouching down to help him pick up the fallen candy bars. "Let me help you with that," he said gently. The man looked up, surprised but grateful. "Thank you," he said quietly. As they placed the candy bars back, Daniel stood up and turned to the cashier. "Is this how you treat all your customers?" he asked, his voice calm but firm. The cashier blinked, taken aback. "Excuse me?" Daniel didn't answer. Instead, he turned to the man. "Do you need help with anything else? I'd be happy to assist." The man hesitated before nodding. "Actually, I could use a hand reaching some items on the top shelf." "Of course," Daniel said, his tone warm. He pushed the man's wheelchair back into the aisles, helping him gather the rest of his groceries. As they moved through the store, Daniel couldn't help but notice the stares from the employees. When they reached the checkout counter again, Daniel handed the cashier his business card. "I'll be back," he said simply. The employees glanced at the card, their faces draining of color when they saw the name. The next day, Daniel returned to the store, this time in his usual sharp suit, flanked by the store's manager. A meeting was called, and all employees were gathered in the break room. Daniel stood at the front, holding up the same baseball cap he had worn the day before. "Some of you might remember me from yesterday," he began, his voice steady but full of emotion. "I came here undercover because I wanted to see how our customers were being treated, and what I saw was unacceptable." He locked eyes with Greg, the cashier, and a few others who had been part of the cruelty. They squirmed in their seats, avoiding his gaze. At Haven Mart, we pride ourselves on kindness, respect, and inclusivity. If you can't uphold those values, this isn't the place for you, Daniel said firmly. "I will not tolerate employees who mock, belittle, or disrespect our customers, especially those who are vulnerable." He then turned to the store manager. "We're going to implement a thorough training program, and every employee will attend. But let me be clear. There will also be consequences for those who crossed the line yesterday." Greg and the others were dismissed on the spot. Later that week, Daniel invited the young man in the wheelchair, whose name he learned was Ethan, to the store for a meeting. He apologized personally for what had happened and assured Ethan that Haven Mart was taking steps to make sure no one else experienced such treatment. Ethan smiled, his voice filled with gratitude. "Thank you. It means a lot to know someone cares." Before Ethan left, Daniel asked him one more thing. "Would you be interested in helping us create better accessibility and training programs? Your insight would be invaluable." Ethan's eyes lit up. "I'd love to." In the weeks that followed, the store underwent major changes. Accessibility was improved, employees were retrained, and a new culture of kindness began to take root. For Daniel, the experience was a reminder that leadership wasn't just about profits or expansion. It was about people, and he vowed to never lose sight of that again.